Oh, what's up? What's up? What's up, Internet? Internet. What's going on, Internet? It is a glorious, rainy, terrible Monday outside, and I have a pencil in my head again. People are going to wonder what's the orange thing in my ear, but that's just reality. Who knows if we're echoing? I suppose there's one way to figure that out by creating an echo or simply plugging in over here and maybe somebody will pop on. Are we echoing, Cole? Hey, Cole, what's going on? I don't know if we're echoing. Aquatic House, what's up? It's a glorious rainy Monday here in Tacoma, Washington. The liquid is coming down from the sky. And I've got some alert going on here saying something about something. And maybe our bit rate is legit. Maybe it's not. Trying something new today. We're doing the live stream a little bit different. Have added in some scenes and done a ton of work to try and get this computer to stream properly. We'll see if the camera breaks out again. To everybody watching, if the camera does break out, I'm very sorry about that. I've noticed from some of the from watching reviewing, I guess, watching over some of the previous ones. What's up, Kevin? It's my man Kevin from Florida. From watching some of the previous live streams, whatever you want to call this, I'm not really sure what I'm calling it yet, other than the live stream. Yeah, I'm gonna get a big giant sponge filter for this. Well, spoiler alert. In the future, I'll get a giant one and put it on here, so my head will just be behind it. From watching the previous ones, if the camera does drop out, I think the audio drops too once it processes for whatever reason. But doing the best I can here. I'm just a one-man army trying to get things done. And, we'll see how it goes. What's going on this week? Oh, this week, there goes the dog. See the dog escape out the back? She gets real interested right at the beginning and then gets bored of me. What she thinks is talking to myself. But I'm not. I'm talking to you, the interneters. What's going on this week is the new edition of the 180. I got it moved in to the shop today, and we're going to swap around through some of the scenes here, and coming up a little bit further down the line here of moving the stuff around in the shop, and kind of I came up with a better layout than how I had the tanks set in there before. And I do have some bad news. One of those tanks I was going to get to replace the 110 fell through. I was talking about it, I think yesterday or the day before, that it turned out to be a 3-person swap. And this is sort of like when Cincinnati tries to trade a pitcher to New York, but New York wants some backup guys from the Mariners and all that kind of craziness, and then it falls through, to give a little sports analogy. Kind of weird stuff always happens in baseball. No cash considerations for the trade deal falling through on my end, or anybody's end for that matter. But one of the tanks that the guy had, essentially I was going to trade the old 180, that's the real tall one. I was going to trade that for 2 other tanks, which was going to be a 150 that was 24 inches tall, 24 inches deep, and then, 5 feet wide? Yeah, 5 feet wide. And for a 120 that was going to replace the 75 that Vicky is going to be using. So now I have to try and figure out, the 150 is the one that whisked away. So I'm having to figure out now, because I can probably still get the 120. So I'm talking to the guy about trying to get that 120. We'll see what happens along those lines. But now I'm at a bit of a conundrum because the 180, the old 180 is existing still. It didn't go away, and it hasn't been replaced. So now I'm at a bit of a conundrum because I think the 75 is going to get replaced with that 120, most likely. We'll see what happens. If dude wants a whole bunch of money, then it's probably not going to work out because I'm a little threadbare right now as far as funds go. But now I'm at a bit of a question. I think what's going to end up happening, I think I talked about this yesterday, is I think what's going to end up happening is the old 180 will probably end up being the reef tank. And you'll see from the later on time-lapse stuff that I got of me moving the stuff around in the shop that will be just to the right of the door when you go in. So the reef will be kind of isolated by itself, and then all the planted tanks will make an L around the room, if that makes sense at all. The long wall and then the back wall that where the 240 is going to be going against that individual back wall. I put a tape measure down, and I realized that when I'd started to build the room, I had built the room with the intention to put the 240 straight back there. And somewhere in the mix of moving the tanks around and getting everything in, it seemed like that was wrong for whatever reason. But I went back to that, moved the 240 back there, and we have plenty of space because of the size that I built the room. So we're kind of back to the initial plan of when it was a plan to build the fish room in the first place. And Victoria's home. Hello! My lovely partner finally made her way through the crazy traffic. It is almost 7 o'clock Pacific time here, and she gets off work at 5, which gives you an idea of how long that commute was, and that is brutal. Luckily, I have already started dinner, and it's simmering back there, so as soon as we're done with the live stream, dinner will be ready, and we'll be able to sit down and have a fine Monday dinner. Now, for the rest of the week, I have a job scheduled that is going to involve a ton of travel for me, so I'm sort of going to be off air. I know I'll be off air on Wednesday. I'll probably try to get something in Tuesday and Thursday. We'll see. If not, Friday will be another big day to get a ton of stuff done, and hopefully I'll be getting a bunch of the plumbing and stuff done on Friday. But today I got all the tanks moved, so let's pop onto that scene, and I'm going to get small. Let's see if this works. I got some new addition to the live stream here. Let's see if switching scenes works at all. Aha! Brilliant. And as you can see, the video quality is much better when I shoot it with my nice camera versus this crappy webcam. But the one-man moving army, which I call myself, getting everything moved around because the shop is full of stuff and the fish room is full of stuff and everything was in the way, so I have to do the crazy jockey maneuvers to get everything moved around. You see me stacking tanks and moving them. That is one thing that I think probably 10 years ago or something like that, I was really surprised to find out that when people store tanks, they store a ton of them stacked up on top of each other. I thought, man, those things would break until I realized I ended up working for a shop probably 5 years ago that the tanks can really handle it. I think we used to stack them like 8 high out back, something like that. But I finally got the 240 moved, and as we move through the scenes here, I'll show you the rest of the layout. But this is basically me getting everything staged, and then using my back muscles and my leg muscles to move this to move the 240 along. It is not the heaviest thing because it's not a glass tank, but it is super awkward and heavy altogether, especially with the stand. There's really no way I can lift the 240 by itself unless I somehow get it tipped up and then bear hug it and like walk it around all crazy like that. It being 8 feet long makes it really ridiculous to do that inside. I can do that outside, not inside a room. So I'm having to shimmy this thing along, and this is kind of a fun little time lapse that happened here. But I'm glad to get it moved, and then I realized, hey, I have a little bit of a plumbing issue to sort out. if you're facing the tank, on the left-hand side is the overflow. And when I got this tank, it was plumbed really weird. So I had to remove the overflow plumbing out of there, and then I ended up plumbing it out the side. That goes out the left-hand side. So what I'm actually going to have to do is probably patch that bulkhead that is on the left-hand side and probably go straight out the back or straight out the bottom if I can. That's really going to kind of be a little bit of an issue. I'll have to rebuild the stand and cut some serious holes and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if my patch that's down below is in the way of actually getting a bulkhead drilled in there. But I'm going to cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully I'll be able to just run it straight out the back because I do have enough space off of the back wall to be able to do that, and that would be the easiest way to route it, is just straight down behind the tank and drain down into the sump. I will have to patch at one point in time. You can see the overflow drain in the top of the sump there. You can see that big hole. That big hole is what goes on. That's where the overflow drains down into the sump and comes in there. I'll have to patch that hole and put it coming from the back instead of the side. But that one's not a big deal. That's like, I don't know, 5-minute fix or something like that. Not a big deal. Joe Black, what's going on? I think the 240 looks way better back there, and I think somehow when I injured my thumb, when I cut my thumb off, I think it cut the part of my brain out of my thumb that I was remembering that I built this room for the 240 to go straight back there. And when we moved all the tanks in, it was like, oh man, we shouldn't put the 240 back there. It'll be stuffed in, and there won't be enough space to be in front of it. But here's the ridiculous thing. Even with 10 feet of tanks in front of it, there's still, I think, 29 inches of walkway that will be right in front. 31 inches. 31 inches of walkway right in between the front of the tank and then the next tanks that would be, what am I thinking here? Perpendicular to the 240. Joe Black, can we see the new tank? I think the new tank is at the end of as we go through the scenes here. It will be coming up very soon, and there will be a lot of highlighted videos and stuff of that tank getting set up and stuff. So I wouldn't stress out about it too much. It looks like a longer, shorter. Well, it looks like the 240 with minus 2 feet. It's 6 feet long, 2 feet tall, 2 feet deep tank. So it's that shape that I really like. The only difference is the overflow is in the center, and it has a blue background, which I talked about a little bit yesterday, that if we're going to do it as a planted tank, it will take a couple minutes of making a new black background for it, which I'll end up doing a little bit of faux, F-E-U-X, faux rock work on the back wall. But yeah, I do really like the 240 here going back to the back of the room where I had initially built the whole room for it to go in. Joe, I've been testing the water, and I haven't found anything that has been wrong yet. I have a new test kit coming that's going to expand my ability to test the water, so I haven't found out what it is yet. It's not ammonia or chlorine, and I forget what else I tested for, but it's not ammonia or chlorine in the water, so it's neither of those two things. And if it starts getting way down the list, I don't think it's nitrates or nitrites or anything like that, but I'll be testing as I go along here. Luckily, there are some reef test kits out there that can go along the lines of finding out more things if there are more things going on. I don't remember what video it was, but it was a couple days ago I was talking about it. The worst thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to have to end up plumbing in a large DI unit into our home water here, which is pretty easy to do now. You can actually get those units from like Home Depot and that kind of stuff. It's basically like the first two stages of, the last stages in an RODI unit. And I forget, I have a business card somewhere where I can get the DI scrap material in bulk and swap those tanks out actually pretty easily, about as easily as a CO2 tank, if that makes sense. I know that is very difficult for some people, but in the Seattle Tacoma area where I live, that is actually walk in, give them the old one, they give you a new one, and you give them some money and leave. It's actually kind of a really quick thing in this area, just because it's kind of prolific that there is a lot of machinery and crazy stuff going on in these port towns that I live in. I don't want to say your name wrong. Tai Heng. Am I going to work on aquaponics this summer? Yes, 2 aquaponic systems are going into the new property here where we live. We were unable to really do very much of that at the last house because it was a rental. We didn't own it, and we really couldn't make decisions in regards to necessarily doing more elaborate water systems on the property, because generally speaking, we would have had to leave them there. We could have, had we built them, we could have torn them all out and taken the stuff with us, but realistically, like, building them is enough. And realistically, you don't want to be digging out all this plumbing out of the ground and stuff like that. And so we never really did it there. We just did raised bed gardens, the chickens and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're going to be doing that here. And we will have one of the systems will be running. I was about to say 24/7, but 365. We'll have one that's running all year round in the environment here that will actually be pumping through a greenhouse, which will be the way that I'll probably keep an eye on water temperature and all that stuff coming from there. Joe Black, the plants I had before look so good and healthy. Is this the same water? This is not the same water. We are on a different watershed here than I was in Seattle. So there are some slight differences in the water that we're getting here, although everything in Western Washington does come down from the Cascades, so it shouldn't be that different, which is why I wasn't that concerned about it, and realistically didn't test the water like I should have, and it's really my bad, and I really feel bad about it, because Vicky's bamboo shrimp and her plecos are the ones that had to pay for it, and I really feel shitty about it. There's just no other way to feel when it's my own advice, and I didn't even take my own advice. It sucks. I figured the water here would be just the same, and finding out that it's not. Aquatic House, any tips on how to get rid and cleaning the glass of all those water stains and stuff? Most of the water stains and everything that's on here will come off super easy with one of those white acrylic pads, because this is acrylic, so I don't want to scratch it, so I'll use an acrylic pad. If you have a glass tank, would use the, what color are they, blue or black? It's been so long since I've really gone in depth into cleaning glass tanks. It's been a long time. I think they're black, if I remember correctly, but vinegar, white distilled vinegar is your friend here. That is 100% your friend. And if you have something that's really gunked up, as we used to do in the store that I used to work in, which was a huge reef store, so keep in mind that was all really expensive reef stuff that is out there. What we would use is bleach. We would actually use bleach, rinse everything, and then let it dry. Once bleach, something that has been bleached like that, once we dry it, the bleach will actually evaporate up into the air, and it doesn't affect anything. We would even bleach all of our old coral and rocks and stuff. Once they were dry, we would move them into customers' tanks even. White distilled vinegar is the easiest way to get all of this stuff off. That, like, as you can see on the 240, a lot of that is dirt, and it's not going to be a real big, well, I mean, I'm calling it dirt, but it's actually fluval stratum. Some of it breaks down. It kind of becomes this, like, muckety dirt, and probably fish poop, realistically, and some algae. All of this will come off really easily with white distilled vinegar, which is cheap. You can go to the grocery store and get a gallon of it for like $1.99 or something like that. It's kind of the best best and easiest, cheapest way to do it. Home Depot will do a full ship-in water analysis for free. All right, I'm going to go to Home Depot and have them analyze the water down here. If that's the case, I'm going to go there and do that for sure. Kevin, that is a good tip. I will be going to Home Depot with water fairly soon. Joe Black, do you think it may not be the water? It is a possibility that it's not the water, and it might have been operator error somehow. I don't know exactly what happened. I know what happened with all my shrimp and all that stuff. It was temperature. I put them in buckets with heaters, and the heaters just boiled that water. I mean, that water was probably 140 degrees would be my guess. Having been a chef and can feel temperature with my hand pretty accurately, I would say it was in the range to 135 to 140. It was right in there. That's what happened with those. The tanks that we had in the basement, the only culprit that I can really point a finger at would be something going on with the water, because once we had a problem with some of our shrimps dying, we looked at the water, and it was obvious that ammonia was really high. So we ended up doing a swap into a whole new tank of water. I basically filled a whole 20 long, and then we moved everybody over to it with the filter and everything. So it should have been cycled in fresh, clean water, because we moved all the plants and rocks and all that kind of stuff. And it should have been handled. Oh, Victoria's here, looking lovely as ever. Hey, baby. Dinner is simmering and should be ready once the internet goes back to cat memes and talking shit about the president, right? Joe Black's asking, am I close to Corey's aquarium store? I used to be a lot closer to Corey's aquarium store, and here's a hot tip. My mom's old house was right near Corey's aquarium store, and I actually grew up fairly close. I used to ride my bike from my house down past where Corey opened his store. This is long before, I think this is probably even before Corey was alive, when I was a kid riding my bike down there. But I was about 8 miles away from Corey's store in Edmonds is where I grew up. You have to go over a few hills and go a little bit more into the woods, and that's where I grew up. I have had limited conversations with Corey in person at the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, the GSAS. We met at a bunch of those meetings. Shop, and I've talked to him there and stuff. It is a bit of a commute for me to go to his store now. Now it would probably take about, I would say, an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes for me to drive up there. Though I do work up there, so I'll probably swing by some point if he's around or whatever, and go, chew the fat with him. But very cool dude, and very cool dude in person. Dig the guy. And I have to admit, a lot of people in the business in the Seattle area were doubting him with what he was doing and what was going on at the time. Everybody thought he didn't have enough money, or enough this, or enough that, or enough da-da-da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. But dude, really impressed. Got the store open, got the stuff going, and is just really kicking ass. So, yeah, and one of the nicest dudes you'll meet. I mean, realistically, in person, the guy is a super nice dude. I guess I could sit here and just say how cool Corey is all night. Aquatic House white vinegar, you got to need to flood the tank with it, and I couldn't just simply wipe it with a cloth after getting it wet with white vinegar. White vinegar generally will become inert, so it's not realistically that big of a deal, because the properties of vinegar aren't going to be a big deal long term. I've even cleaned tanks and just gave them a light rinse of water, and then just kind of towel dried them. I guess the easy way to equate it would be like vinegar. Treat the vinegar like bleach, let it dry, and you're good to go. After that, you're realistically not going to be that big of a deal. In the time lapse back here, you can see it. I finally got the tank in, and then leveling is a bit of an issue. I would highly recommend anybody out there, if you're going to be installing your tank, this is very important to level your tank. Take the time to do the shims, do all that stuff to make sure it's level. Get 3 levels. Borrow one from your grandpa, borrow one from your neighbor, and hopefully you already have a level. And then you'll have 3, and you'll be able to set one on either end and one on the front, so you can figure side to side and front to back and get everything level. This is really important to do with any aquarium, whether it's a 10-gallon, 1,000-gallon, any of that kind of stuff. There is more work that I'm going to be doing to this stand. You can see right now it's only some 2x4s. This is going to end up getting wrapped. Victoria and a lot of people out there agree that my stupid industrial-looking aquarium stands are just not that pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to end up doing a dark stain just like her tank, and some wood accent doors that I actually do with magnets. If where's my boy at? Javi. If Javier was around, Javier would tell you he loves his magnet door that I helped him out with. Or maybe he doesn't. Who knows? Let's see here. Tai Hang, am I able to collect rainwater in my area for my aquaponics or garden? One of the reasons that I left Seattle, okay, and came to Tacoma is that in Tacoma, we are allowed our rainwater rights. In Seattle owns the rights to the rainwater. They believe that they are the owner of the rain that falls from the sky. And another reason that I get really irritated with sort of the politics that go around here is they keep tacking on taxes. They keep acting like they own the world, and that kind of pisses me off. That's the one thing that pisses me off about this. What people would commonly refer to as liberal politics. You can't just keep taxing forever if you can't get some efficiency within the system. They're spending $53 billion to put in a train, which is costing every single person in this area in the county I moved to and the county that I came from. They're charging every single person an average of $440 a year for the next 23 years, which is insane to put in a train when automated cars are going to fix a lot of the traffic out here. And, I tried to put my voice out there to say, if you're going to spend $53 billion, solve the automated self-driving car system. But they're going to build a train. Okay, sorry. But yes, in Tacoma, we are allowed to catch rainwater. Now, there may be a limit on how much rainwater I'm supposed to collect, but I don't know. I'll cross that road when we come to it. For instance, a sort of parallel issue would be our chickens. We're only allowed, I believe, 6 chickens per person, or it's 3 chickens per person. I can't remember which one it is. And we have 6, so either way, we're cool. I would just probably have to tell them that if I got more chickens, we're going to have kids or something. I don't know. But we are allowed to catch our rainwater here. It's not the same way it was in Seattle. It's almost punch-worthy to punch somebody in the face when they say you can't collect your own rainwater, like that someone else owns it. Kevin says, most of the time is a rack with envelopes and test bottles. As soon as you walk in, you bring it home and mail it in. If not, I'm going to ask customer service about them testing the water. I mean, if they're going to test my water, okay, maybe every day is so maybe I'll get them to test it 5 days a week. That's for sure. Aquatasy. If I lived within driving distance, I would absolutely go to a store. Yeah, there are a lot of good stores in Western Washington. Corey's store is really cool. There's also another one in the Roosevelt neighborhood owned by Steve Waldron. What's it called? But that one is also really cool to go to as a customer, especially if you're a planted tank fan, because that dude has a whole bunch of dope, like, scaped planted tanks in his store. You know what I'm saying? You can buy stuff out of his tanks. Super cool. Dwayne, thanks. It is a good job leveling. I wish my concrete job had gotten it just a little bit straighter, but it is way straighter than it was before and not going to be an issue now, which is fantastic. There won't be enough funding given for the rain collection amount checkers to get around to you. I was going to know how much rainwater you have collected. Aquatasi. There we go. I guess I can kind of say it that way. They go based on how many barrels you have or whatever. So whatever the container is that you're collecting, you could have an oversized container. So like if you had a 50,000 gallon pool in the ground and you were funneling all of your rainwater into it, they could technically go, "Oh, what are you doing?" That's not cool. We have a 330 gallon tank outside right now that already collects rainwater, and we'll probably get one or two more of them depending on whatever our plans are going to be as we move along here. We are in the collaboration phase to start figuring that out, Victoria and I, and we'll probably get some drawings together, but that's how they go based on it. That's how they go on deciding whether or not you have collected too much rainwater or whatever. I don't know what this video is in scene 4. Apparently it's not a time lapse. Maybe it's just me wandering around or whatever. But vinegar is definitely your friend as far as cleaning goes. To hit on that point again, if you ever need to clean an old tank, if you get an old tank from somebody that looks like garbage or whatever, always use vinegar to clean it, or bleach if you have time to let it completely dry out. Let the bleach completely dry out. Like I said, when I worked at the reef store, even with the delicate nature of reefs, we would clean everything in like heavy bleach, probably 3 parts water to 1 part bleach. So like what is that? A third. It's like 33%, so heavy, pretty heavy bleach. We would bleach everything in there for like pretty much overnight, basically would be the easiest thing. Then we would rinse them off really casually, not really that big of it, spray them off with a hose. And then we would let them dry out for probably a week outside, generally speaking, is what sort of the time frame, sometimes 2 weeks, but we just make sure that they completely dried of all the bleach. The easy way to figure that out is to smell them. If they smell like bleach at all, it ain't all dried out yet. I guess this is a video of me carrying around that sump, which, by the way, still has a whole bunch of rocks in it, which is why I was like wondering why the thing was so heavy, but I already had picked it up by that point. But I got it in there. And my spine is still doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So I didn't pull any glutes or anything, but my thumb looks funny. But got the sump down there, and then I remembered, when I had it set up previously, it was not set up on top of these 2x4s. I actually had a piece down below that was holding it because it's too high up. It'll be too high up if I have it stacked up on those boards on top of the 2x4s on the base here. So I will have to cut a piece and throw it down underneath there and then level that out so that my sump is level just like my tank is. Otherwise, the water won't flow properly through the sump. Gravity's your friend. Anytime you're dealing with any kind of plumbing or water, gravity is your friend. That's a project that I'm working on this week, is building a giant drain system for a property that has an accumulation of water underneath the house, and gravity is our friend. There will be no pumps or anything like that. We will just be moving water from up here to down there. So do the same thing. When setting up your tanks. Remember to keep in mind, gravity is your friend. Keep everything level, and everything will go smooth. What's going into the 240? I've spoken about this a couple of times. Realistically, the 240 is going to be dedicated to trying to get my shrimp colony going again. Most of my plants boiled and burned and died, melted into nothingness. I'm trying to rehab some plants right now. If anything works out, hopefully my bulbitis will make it. Though we'll see. So mainly getting this tank going will be hopefully getting an opportunity to get the shrimp colony going again, and get a large amount of plants rolling once more. I've kind of hit up some of the big names that I know out there, and hopefully we'll be able to get a few things going in the future. So hopefully the 240 will be a big shrimp tank again, and most likely, but that's also dependent on whether or not I can get a big enough colony to put this tank together as like a real shrimp tank again. How it was set up before, I just had shitloads of crystal shrimp in here, and it maybe didn't come out that well in video. It probably was cool in video or whatever, but in person it was really spot on with something that I would like to sit in front of for like a half an hour and just kind of think about being ultimately kind of the whole point, right? And it worked out pretty well with that. So it's going to be kind of contingent on what I can get as far as a colony goes to go back into this tank. That was lighted on the opposite time schedule from my tank. I actually had a light schedule that was 24 hours on my sump. My sump tank, actually, one of the good benefits of having a big sump and a big planted tank like this is that you could leave a light on that's not heavy light, just some basically like a daylight running down there, that actually helps out with a little bit of algae scrubbing, which means you're going to grow a little bit of algae in the sump, but that's not a big deal. And the opportunity for algae to grow in your display tank gets limited by the fact that you already have some algae growing in your sump tank, if that makes sense at all. It seems weird. It seems weird that you'd want to grow algae within the system, but if you think about it like in a reef system, if you know much about a reef system operating, you'll typically grow a lot of macroalgae and stuff like that in the reef, because in a reef setup like that, because the algae in the sump is going to pick up all that extra nutrient that may or may not be rolling around in your water column and grow algae on your glass or your plants or any of that kind of stuff. So that is the main reason why I would run mine 24 hours a day. I just put a real weak light down there. I think it was just one of them was a T8, and then one of them was I had a couple these little tiny bulbs that are like T3s, I think, that they go undermount like under a microwave. Underneath a microwave or underneath your cabinets in your kitchen. I just happen to have those, so I put daylight bulbs in them, threw them underneath there, so they weren't ever going to light up a tank or nothing like that. So it really helped out keeping the balance going on in the tank, if that makes sense. You can see on the side here the old 110 stand and 110 there. If anybody wants to buy a 110 and lives in Tacoma, Seattle, or whatever, let me know. Hit me up. That one's for sale. You can actually buy one of my tanks if you want. If you're gangster enough and you got cash, kid. I'm basically moving those tanks over there to stage the area and get all my measurements together. It's always great to put a tape on something, but it's also, to me, it feels better when you can actually, put something in that's actually going to fill the diagram in my head actually in front. And it also definitely helps out Victoria when I try to explain things to her and wave my hands around like a maniac, and she has no idea what I'm talking about because it makes sense in my head, and I'm just like, the thing will go over there, and yeah, and she, she's like, she doesn't know what I'm talking about. But so I put those there, measured 4 times just to quadruple check and make sure that I'm not a crazy person, and got those moved in there. And that one black stand right there with the wood on it is kind of the idea of what all the stands wrapped around are going to go. Actually, that is wood with a black charcoal stain on it, and I think it'll actually pop and look real good going around the whole room. Everything will all be at the same level with that black charcoal stained wood running around in the same line going around. And then we'll have to make a decision if we're going to build hoods or not. That's just something that's down the line, and I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do that or not. Brandon Bishop, am I going to show how I plumbed everything? Yes, I am for sure going to show you how I plumbed everything. I'm going to try and do most of my videos like this moving in the future, be able to set up the scenes in the background and then talk about it, and then be able to talk to you guys directly as the questions come in and stuff. Personally, I would love to be able to do this 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have to go and make money, though, so that is the ultimate problem with trying to be able to do this every day. But this is how I'm going to do most of my videos moving forward, and try to keep them at 40 minutes to an hour is probably enough. You know what I'm saying? Out. Oh, it dropped out. Oh, the camera died. Oh, and now it's back. Now it's back having the weird setting on it. Let's see if I haven't been able to figure out how to do this today because I haven't done it yet. I don't know. I'll just be weird colored here. Blech. But anyhow, we're getting to the end here. Anyhow, I've kind of pretty much run through the stuff, but I'm definitely going to be showing you guys how to do all of the plumbing and how I plumb them, and trying to, like I was saying, I'm going to try and do the videos like this moving forward, so that I can give a better explanation. Or if you have questions and you're like, what is he talking about? Then we'll be able to move that way. Dwayne, I'm sure it has something to do with the USB. All of the research that I did on this stupid camera and this program have said that because I was running it through USB 3.0, which is cross-compatible with anything that's old, that this camera might be too old in order to run on USB 3, and I need to run it on USB 1, which is kind of horseshit. But that seems to be the most likely explanation, but maybe it's just old. I've had it for like 3 years, or maybe longer than that. Maybe I just wore it out. Maybe it's just old. I don't know, but I'm going to find my old 910 and see if I get the same problems. I have a Logitech 910 around here somewhere. I was working on some organization today, and I still haven't found it, so we'll see what's up. I thought I had fixed it with software. We made it to like 40 minutes, so that's an improvement from yesterday. Yesterday it was doing it every 6 minutes, which was total horseshit, but I think it's kind of better that it lasted 40 today. Maybe it'll just slowly get better over time, and we'll see. As long as the rhizome was there and the bulbitis, it will probably make it, but it had a lot of melt off from that high temperature, which is the thing that I'm really worried about. Tai Hang, do I believe in buying fish that fits your water or creating an ideal environment for the fish? Well, that's a difficult question to answer because, like reef tanks, like ain't nobody got no reef water coming out of their tap. So it's sort of a double-edged sword if you try to say, hey, I'm going to go with this, or hey, I'm going to go with that. But it's really dependent on the fact that, like, some areas in the United States, their water is super hard. It's like filtered straight through limestone, which is plenty fine for people to eat or eat and drink, however you want to put it. If people want to drink it. But I would try to do stuff that's within a close range. You know what I'm saying? If you had like a pH of 8 water coming out, I would think about doing cichlids, or maybe, you could soften your water down a little bit to do kind of the mid-range cichlids and stuff like that. Or just as an example, I would try to stay in the close range so you're not trying to do dramatic changes. That's what the advice that I would honestly give in regards to that. It's a great question. By creating an environment for the fish, I would try to, tell any fish keeper out there, try to make it a little bit easier on yourself than trying to overreach. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes sense. Like if you only had brackish water coming out of the tap, it might be a good idea to just do a brackish tank, or a salt tank or whatever. And most fish will adapt to, as Joe Black says, most fish will adapt somewhat to water that's a little bit different but is consistent, if that makes sense. As long as you're keeping it consistent is the big issue. But yeah, I am blue, and excuse me, I am blue, but more importantly, I am super hungry and I want to go hang out with Victoria, so I'm gonna go do that. Thanks everybody for coming out. I would love to give individual to you all. So let's see here: Ty Hang, Dwayne Kitchell, Carson Anderson, Aquatasy. That's how you say it. Ty Hang, Cole Schramm, Joe Black, Brandon Bishop, and anybody I missed. Aquatic House, everybody. Man, I got like a fur ball cut in my throat. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Thanks for supporting. And I need to go get a drink of water. All right, that's it for Monday. Where's the thing? Where's the thingy? All right, guys.